The Heartland Cafe. This is the Live from the Heartland Show. I'm Michael James. I'm here with Don Rose, political analyst and consultant, etc., who always fills us up with great information and ideas. And we're joined now by Jeff Epton, who's been on the show a few times himself. He's out of Chicago, then to Ann Arbor, was a city councilman up in Ann Arbor. Now he's in D.C. He's a poet. He has a new book called Wild Once and Captured. He'll be reading from that book at 3 o'clock this afternoon from this very same stage. And in the break, we were talking about schools and school closings. You being a resident of D.C. these days, you probably could fill us in on the historical perspective of when schools started to go on the backside of the mountain, down the hill.
Well, you know, in truth, it's from my Chicago experience in Chicago public schools that I would say.
Where'd you go? Hyde Park, South Shore?
I went to Hyde Park.
My dad did too.
Well, and my dad went to Hyde Park.
Right.
And you know, now you guys know Tim Black.
Yes.
Very well.
You know,
Wonderful man.
Very wonderful man, and he was a high school history teacher.
History
of mine.
teacher, sure.
And when I was at Hyde Park in the 4 years that I was there, one of my classmates was Tim's daughter Ermitra. When I got to senior year in high school, my brother started at Hyde Park, and as a freshman, one of his classmates was Tim's son. In '65,
Timmy Jr.
Yeah, in '65, Ermitra and I graduated. In '66, my dad transferred my brother Mark out of Hyde Park because he no longer felt confident that the school was capable of delivering the education or even assuring the safety of my younger brother. That same year, Tim, even though he continued to teach in Chicago public schools for a couple years, also took his son out for the same reasons. What was going on there, I think, was the beginning of a decline that was only visible at the neighborhood level, but marked the beginning of a national withdrawal from support for quality, accessible public education.
Well, there was a turning point there. I was very involved in that at that time because the neighborhood, I lived in Hyde Park at that time, and the neighborhood was faced with two alternatives. One was to build a separate school in Kenwood.
Yeah,
which is now one of the.
But that was afterwards. Then what?
Well, no. But the plan of the progressives during that era, when just perhaps around the time you were graduating or at least in school, was to convert Hyde Park into 4 small schools. And to make it, we didn't use the term at the time, to turn it into a kind of a magnet school where, based on models that had worked in New York, you could have 4 different schools going on at Hyde Park that would draw more and more people in there, the old Hyde Park High School. And when the decision was made to, in effect, abandon Hyde Park High School and build Kenwood, that is truly one of the dividing lines in American education.
Well, that is how that turning point. That is how that turning point manifested itself in regard to that particular school and that neighborhood. In point of fact, you have a national withdrawal from the commitment to public education that began to happen about the same time that middle-class whites started leaving.
Was it because of
communities.
integration that schools became integrated? White people withdrew support for public education?
It's very possible that I mean, and well, very possible doesn't go far enough. Yeah, sure. that was sort of one of the underlying causes there.
We go back to a series of historic education panics I don't know if the name Why Johnny Can't Read means anything to you.
Yeah, sure.
This was a book that came out in the 50s that was one of the first to begin to decry public education and tell us how bad we were, and it was filled with misinformation.
Well, yeah, there's no question. But first of all, I think that book came out later. But let me say this, that I was in the schools. I was well aware that, Hyde Park still at the time had a reputation as being a flagship high school
Yeah, it used
in
to
the
be.
city system. I was one of a tiny percentage of white students at the school, but the city's investment in the notion that Hyde Park still provided a quality education to an integrated school population was so high that they did everything they could to keep the few white kids that were there in the school, including, in fact, segregate us from most of the school population.
Right, they put you in a tracking system, right?
That's right. And of course there were African American kids in the highest tracks along with me. The difference between most of the black kids, the boys in particular, and me is how we were treated when we didn't conform to expectations.
That's still going on today.
Right, absolutely. There was nothing I could do that would get me kicked out of that highest track system in terms of academic performance, in terms of behavior in the classroom, in terms of behavior outside the school. But the young black men that I went to school with who were in the high honors, the chances that if they got a D in the class or if they were reprimanded for a behavior issue, that they would get demoted immediately out of that track were very, very high.
And that went on right into the heart of Hyde Park, where my own daughter, I can't remember what year she went into middle school, but she said, all I have to do to get top rank is be a well-behaved white kid.
Yeah.
Kids know how it runs down.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to switch the gears here a little bit, and we're going to get Jeff to read some poems, but before we do that, I want to finish up a couple other issues with Don, and one of those would be, I got three issues. I want to get your take on the governor's race, and there's a lot of talk about how Quinn is weak. Quinn did make an accommodation with some unions. He has gone to Mexico, clearly bolstering his support or attempt to among the Latin American community here. Your take on Quinn's chances and your thoughts about whether Lisa Madigan will go for it while her dad remains the Speaker of the House.
Okay, first of all, I think Pat Quinn is in a very weak situation. I do not see him surviving against Lisa Madigan or against Bill Daley or even the three of them running. I don't think they'll split the vote enough to let Pat get through. I say this with mixed feelings. I think Pat is a good guy. He's honest. He's creative. But let's face it, he is a lousy administrator. Pat should have been a senator, not running an entire state.
Maybe he'll run for Senate.
Lisa Madigan is the hottest politician in the state. All the indications are that she is going to make a run for the Senate. I'm sorry, for the governorship. And everyone is frozen in place until she makes her decision. She's a perfect parallel to Hillary Clinton. We think Hillary Clinton wants to be the president, but nobody dares make a move until she declares herself because nobody wants to run against her. So, yes, I think if she chooses to run, she will certainly defeat Pat Quinn. My feeling is, even if Mike, her father, stays as Speaker of the House, that she can still win, although with a reduced margin.
Right.
I must say, though, that a good friend of mine who has seen some numbers says that she could lose if Mike stays there.
I would hope so.
If I were to make a guess, and those numbers hold, and she wants to run, what Mike will do will promise to step down as Speaker of the House, but stay on as chairman of the party to make sure that he engineers her victory thoroughly. So if she chooses not to run, and this is a lousy job. This state is in terrible shape, and I don't know anybody who can fix it without some drastic measures, including higher taxes, that nobody wants to do. The pension situation, the debt situation. Lisa might say, to hell with this. Why should I sully myself? I like being Attorney General. Why should I sully myself with a next to impossible job? If she chooses not to run, Bill Daley will definitely run. He's been setting himself up, writing op-eds that lay out platforms, writing national op-eds in the Wall Street Journal on important issues, and for the first time saying what he stands for. Bill Daley is one of these guys who has avoided totally ever trying to say what he stands for. But so if he won't run against Lisa, he won't run if Lisa is in there. If Lisa does not, Bill Daley will run, and I believe will defeat Pat. I just think Pat is almost impossible to win.
All right, we heard that. Now I'm going to hit you with a couple other quick ones. Gay marriage in the state of Illinois. Will it happen soon? Will it be put off? Where's it at?
It's very close now. The unfortunate thing is that several African American legislators are still holding out. And I would say at the moment it's at best 50-50 for this term. But it's going to happen. It may be in the following term.
Absolutely.
It has to happen, and obviously we'd love to see it happen. But I am very fearful of the hold that some of these conservative black ministers, who socially conservative, who are anti-abortion, anti-gay, and so on. Unless Barack were to come in and really lean in on the remaining legislators, that's about all I think could guarantee it.
All right, and in today's news, I was reading the New York Times about Marco Rubio, who they keep talking about as this Tea Party-backed conservative playing a key role in immigration, has not yet taken a position or a real stance on immigration. They're still talking about border security, even though when you go to that border, there's a lot of big high fences. And I just wondered your take on immigration getting through Congress and having some transformation soon.
I tend to believe that the odds are narrowly in favor of some kind of immigration reform. It may not be exactly what we want to see, and it may defer on this issue of border security. But if enough people finally get it through their heads that immigration, so-called illegal immigration, has gone down.
They say these villages in Mexico are empty. There are not a lot of people trying to come or want to come.
Exactly, because again, it's tied to the economics of the United States. We need them because that's one of the few things, when you look down the chain, the more immigrants we have, the more legal immigrants we have, the more work we give them, the greater we will pump up our Social Security reserves. People don't even think about that. They pay into a system where with the white fertility rate, the general American fertility rate going down, it takes fewer and fewer workers to support people like us who are on Social Security. So immigration is one of the fixes for Social Security, and that might ultimately be a lever that convinces enough conservatives that it ought to be tried.
That's good. Good information. Don, it's always great having you here. I'm going to once again let people know who are listening that as we are speaking that Jeff Epton will be reading poetry from his new book this afternoon here at the Heartland Cafe. And to give you a little advance about what you might hear, how about reading us a couple poems?
Okay. All right.
Great book, Wild Once and Captured. I kind of like that title.
Thank you. And actually, that's a part of a line from a poem. And the full line is wild once and captured and broken out again.
I like you could have added that to it.
And,
when did you actually become a poet? You were a student at Hyde Park High School. You ended up in Michigan, in Ann Arbor. I think you were a city councilman there. Now you're in D.C. and you are a poet.
I was here in Chicago for a while. I was a publisher for a brief time In These Times.
Oh, right.
But, I never fully became anything, I don't think, and don't necessarily...
We're all still looking on what we're going to be.
Yeah, exactly so.
I'm still trying to figure out who I'm going to be when I grow up.
Right, me too.
Well, I know I've got a leg up on a